Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Camilla and I work with ambitious individuals to help them finally achieve their goals and create a life that feels more vibrant and fulfilling by integrating psychology, nervous system work and manifestation. And in my last video, I talked about what is self-sabotage, but from a nervous system perspective. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it up here. Go watch it before continuing with this video because it's a really good foundation to have for what we're going to talk about today, which is how do we actually stop self-sabotage for good without trying to change from a place of shame or guilt, but instead by working with our nervous system. So you've probably tried to change your behavior before and stop yourself from self-sabotaging. You might have told yourself the infamous phrase, "I'll start tomorrow," or promised yourself that next time you're not going to give in to the procrastination. But if you're here, these things probably didn't work. And this is because self-sabotage is a survival mechanism, right? So as human beings, we're programmed to get away from danger and to do everything we can to survive. We're not programmed to make more money or start a business or start working out more or whatever your goal is. We're programmed to survive. And this is why it's so difficult to get yourself to push past that drive and actually follow through on your goal. And even when you do manage to push through and push past the self-sabotage, it can often leave us feeling burnt out because it takes a lot of energy to push past that survival drive, and it's often not maintainable. So what we need to do is actually work in a more trauma-informed way to stop self-sabotage for good. So if self-sabotage is a protective mechanism that kicks in when your nervous system sees something as unsafe, what we want to do to stop it is make our nervous system understand that our goal is not unsafe. And the first step to that is actually developing more self-compassion, which is a step that many people like to skip because they like to go straight into doing the doing and getting the results. But self-compassion is like your internal support system, and it contributes to that feeling of safety. And you can think of this as your own internal teacher or guide. And when you have a teacher who believes in you and understands you and is supportive of you, it's much easier to make progress and to change certain things and achieve what we want to achieve. Whereas if you have a teacher who's really dismissive of you and your potential and who tells you off every time you make a mistake, it's going to be much more difficult to actually change and to achieve better results. So we want to change that internal dialogue to make it more positive, to make it more understanding and compassionate, so that progress becomes easier for us to achieve. And this is why I think it's so important to understand self-sabotage from a trauma-informed or a nervous system perspective, because when we do that, we start to understand that there isn't something inherently wrong with us, or we're not a failure. It's just a program that's being activated within us when we do self-sabotage. And having that understanding can sometimes be enough to start shifting to a more self-compassionate inner dialogue. But sometimes it is also worth working with a practitioner, especially if we have a lot of deep-rooted beliefs about our self-esteem, or maybe we have a lot of shame about our own identity. But thinking back to that teacher analogy, of course we need someone who's kind and understanding to help us to change, but they also need to give us the right tools so that we can create the change. So what are the actual things that we can do to start shifting self-sabotage for good? So the fact that your nervous system has beliefs that your goal is not safe doesn't mean that you have to wait to be completely healed in order to start achieving your goal, because by doing, you're also healing. The point is to expand your comfort zone or your window of tolerance, if you're familiar with that term. The point is to expand it in a way that's gradual and maintainable. If we take on too much, we might overwhelm our nervous system and shut down. But if we're only doing things that are in our comfort zone, we're not creating much change either. So I actually always encourage people to just take it one step at a time and just do the next thing that's comfortable. Because if we are only looking at the big picture, it might seem like there is so many things to do in order to get to our goal. And again, we might become overwhelmed and shut down, and as a result, not get much done at all. So always just think, what's the next step, and make your goals realistic. And when self-sabotage does show up, it's really important to practice calming our nervous system to let it know that you're safe in this situation and you're safe doing this thing that you're doing. And you can do that with various techniques. You can use breath work, tapping, or something called anchoring, which is basically imagining a very safe and comforting memory in your mind and just feeling what that feels like in your body and just coming back into that sense of safety in your body. So it's good to actually try different methods and see what works for you. And then the second thing that we want to do when we find ourselves self-sabotaging again is to actually address the self-sabotage at its root and address the belief that's creating the self-sabotage. And this brings us on to the next step of shifting self-sabotage, which is changing the faulty beliefs that your nervous system has created. And you can start doing this on your own simply by identifying the belief that's getting in the way and listing all the evidence you can think of that goes against that belief. So maybe it's things you've done in your life or you've seen other people do that prove that that belief isn't true. And based on all of that evidence, you would then write out a new, more rational, more realistic belief. And you can use that new belief as an affirmation. So you could listen to it maybe in the morning, just after you've woken up, or as you're falling asleep. And these are really good times to listen to affirmations because your brain is in a more hypnotic state at those times. So it's more open to taking in new information. And as you practice these beliefs, you're rewiring your brain, you're rewiring your nervous system, programming, and it's going to make it easier to take those small actions. And in turn, as you take those small actions, these are going to reinforce that new belief. There's also ways that you can start to shift that faulty programming by working with the body or working somatically. And this involves tapping into those faulty beliefs, feeling them and releasing them. I personally prefer working this way because I find that it helps me to quicker release those trapped emotions, traumas, or beliefs, or whatever you want to call it, that are causing the self-sabotage. And if this is something that you would like to explore, you can actually download my somatic release and align meditation, which was created specifically to help you tap into those programs that are blocking you and that are causing self-sabotage, and start releasing them, and also start aligning with your goal in a somatic way so that you can achieve it quicker. And if you would like to try that, you can download it from my website, which will be linked down below. So you can definitely start doing this work on your own, but I think it's also worth knowing when it could be useful to work with a practitioner. And if you're new to working in a somatic way or working with the nervous system, it might be quite overwhelming to start off with. So it can be good to have that other person there to guide you and to give you that safe space and help you to deal with any overwhelm or any big emotions or traumas that might come up. If you're a person who's struggled with a lot of shame, or like I mentioned before, a lot of self-esteem issues, it can also be good to have that other person there to help you start to shift them. And having another person there, another presence that sees you and that accepts you and that gives you that safe, non-judgmental space, is also healing in itself and can be really supportive to our nervous system. If you'd like to know more about how I could help you, you can book a free 20-minute call with me through my website, which will be linked down below as well. So I hope this was helpful, and make sure to download my free somatic meditation so that you can start shifting those blocks that are in the way. And if you'd like, also book a free chat with me. Both of these will be linked down below. And of course, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss future videos. Bye.